Hey movers, shakers, and the stuck but curious. I'm Freya Gordon, and this is Good Shift, the podcast that helps you figure out what's next in your career and make a move with confidence. Well, today I am so excited to have one of New Zealand's most well-known celebrities on the show. If you've lived in New Zealand in the past few decades, you know my guest today. And I think you're going to be pretty stoked that I've got her on here because she is pretty fucking cool. And she has had a massive career in radio, entertaining the nation for decades. She's spent 33 years on air, built an incredible name for herself, and could have stayed forever. But she decided to make a shift. And we're going to dig into how she knew it was time, what held her back in the past, and what it's like walking away from something that you've really built your identity around. I cannot wait to get into all of this and more, so without further ado, introducing the one and only JJ Feeney, an icon from New Zealand radio, and probably most well known for her time on The Edge. Welcome, JJ.
Oh, it's kind of embarrassing and flattering at the same time, that intro.
I know it's always funny when people are saying all of that stuff about you, but it's true.
Well, thanks,
So we
Freya.
had to slot it in there.
Oh my gosh, I feel like such a dinosaur. You know, I remember when I was young in radio and, you know, there were hosts who'd been around for as long as I have now. And I'd be like, oh, that's so old. Oh, not at all.
You just made your shift, JJ. You're just getting started.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, life does actually begin around 50, I reckon. You know, you're smart enough by then to know how things really work and what you really want. That's what I've found.
Yeah, and you've gained enough confidence so that you don't care so much about what people think, which can be really debilitating earlier on in your life and career.
Definitely. I don't care what people think of me at all now.
Well, it sounds like you haven't been too worried about it in the past. You've done some pretty crazy shit, and actually that's one of the questions I want to ask, not entirely on topic, but I've got to know what is one of the best moments in your career, whether that's something ridiculous or an achievement or something like that.
God, there's just so many.
I know, and I know there's so many, and actually I want to call out, I'm going to drop this in the show notes because before I did this podcast today, I jumped on and listened to Dom Harvey's podcast with you on it, Reflections on Your Career, and that's where people can go to have a bloody good laugh.
Really?
I was just cackling away. You guys were talking about all the stuff that you did on The Edge, and all those stories, so that's a classic one, but give me what's coming to mind for you as a highlight.
Oh God, I mean, like, there's so many things. Like, we did so many out the gate crazy things that got attention when we worked at The Edge. Like, you know, first of all, in 1999 we married two strangers, Paula and Zane, two strangers in a wedding. Now, this is years and years before Married at First Sight on TV. So we were the second place in the world that I know of that did this, because I got the idea from a Danish radio station that they had married two strangers, and I said to my boss Leon, oh my God, we should do this. And so we, basically we married two strangers, and this is 1999. The internet isn't a thing yet in New Zealand. Okay, we're going, God, this sounds like it was last century, literally. So you've got no social media. You can literally keep these people as strangers from each other. So we get guys on air who want to marry a stranger, and you think that it's a hard task to find someone to marry someone they've never met before, but you'd be surprised how many people entered. And we get 5 finalists on the air every day, and we do the lie detector test and find out all their deep, dark secrets and stuff like that, and do their astrology compatibility, and
Oh my gosh, it was a whole series.
it was a whole thing. And then the audience voted for who they thought the groom should be. And once we had the groom, who was Zane, women listening, we were encouraging them, do you want to marry Zane? And so Zane's on the air for a month. Every day you can hear him, hear his voice, hear his personality. We're talking to his friends, his family, all that sort of stuff. And women were applying to marry him. And then we got 10 bride finalists, one every day over 2 weeks. And we did the same to them, ripped them a new one, found out all their dirty, dark secrets, found out how compatible they were. We had psychologists, testing their mental ability.
Oh, you don't want to get two people together if they're not compatible.
Exactly. And then at the end of it, Zane chose a panel of his friends and family who interviewed the 10 bride finalists, and they chose his bride, Paula. So we did it in a bit of a different way to Married at First Sight, but we actually wanted it to work.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a lot of work you guys put into that.
A lot. And it was so interesting to listen to. And like the newspaper, the Waikato Times, because we were in Hamilton at the time, they tried to expose who
Zane was.
Yeah, just so that, because they weren't seeing each other till they got to the altar, and they wanted to sort of ruin it, you know, to make, to like, so Paula would see him first or whatever. On the day of the wedding, front page, there's a picture of Zane and that he's marrying Paula. But Paula didn't see the newspaper, and she knew, some people had told her it was on the front page. She said she didn't want to see it. So she didn't see it, and she walked down the aisle, saw him for the first time, and they have been married ever since.
You are kidding.
They have 3 kids.
My gosh, what an outcome. That is a career highlight. You're a matchmaker.
That was a long story. I tried to make that as short as possible.
No, that was such a good story.
It's one of my favourites, and we've done that 4 times. And all of our couples are still together with kids.
Oh my gosh, maybe you've got a new career there.
I'm a matchmaker, let me tell you.
Yeah, you have to make another switch. You're going to have people coming at you now after that, trying to find their new partners.
Not bad at finding my own husband either. Dom, he's still around.
Exactly. Even though it's in a different capacity.
Yeah, I'd say that would probably be one of my on-air highlights anyway.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Great story. Okay, so let's jump into it. Let's jump into the start of your career. I understand that you started radio when you were about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any experience, I'm guessing, at that point because you're so young.
Yeah.
Did you have, and might be taking your brain back to the archives a bit, but did you have a feeling of imposter syndrome when you started out there?
Oh no, I had so much confidence in myself as a teenager. It's actually embarrassing when I look back, because I really don't have that same confidence at all now, and I don't know why I had it, but I felt quite invincible. So I grew up listening to the radio and wanting to be on the radio, and I would interview my friends on my cassette tape and everything. So I don't know, I always thought I wanted to be on the radio. I didn't know how it would ever happen because I didn't know anything about the radio. How do you get on it, you know? But when I was 15 at high school, you know, you had those work experience days where you have to go out for a day and work somewhere.
Yeah.
This is in New Plymouth. I grew up, Taranaki. I was at New Plymouth Girls High School, and the local radio station, Energy FM, which was owned by Stephen Joyce, who used to be, you know, John Key's right-hand man. So he owned this radio station, and they said they would take one of the students for work experience there for 6 weeks. And me and my best friend applied for it, and luckily I got it. Yay. Anyway, so I went up there for 6 weeks, and it was just office work. Like, this is so old school. Do you know what a fax machine is?
JJ, I'm not that young.
Faxing, photocopying, licking stamps, you know, like all that sort of office work. And it was just every day, every week after school or whatever, on a Tuesday, every week for 6 weeks. But I loved it there. And I made friends with everyone who worked there. And I just went every day after school when the 6 weeks was up. Went every day after school. Hi, guys. Do you need any help with anything? You know, and they go, oh, you can sort out the records in the record library, or you can, you know, do this, do that. And then they said, oh, we need someone to help us this weekend at a live broadcast, you know, blowing up balloons, handing out stickers and doing sausages on the barbie. And I was like, I'm there. So I did that sort of stuff for about 2 years, just helping them out. And then one night, this is also in the day, remember, before computers, the radio was 24/7 live. You had to have someone there queuing up every CD, queuing up the ads, like everything is manual.
Imagine that now.
1 o'clock in the morning, Saturday night, the overnight host didn't show up for some reason, and who knows what the hell happened to her, because no one's ever heard from her since. But anyway, Stephen Joyce rings me, and he's like, how would you like to go on the air? And I've just turned 17.
This is your first time.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, even though I was absolutely shitting my pants. So I went in there, and I wrote down every single thing I said, and I was so terrible. It's terrible. But obviously Stephen was desperate, and he would sit with me the next day and listen back to the show, and he would critique me and
that's
get
like
me
torture.
Oh, it wasn't bad actually. He was just like, you know, pause, smile when you talk, do this, do that, you know, and he coached me along. So I did that for about 6 months. Just on weekends, and then the guy who did the night show got fired, and that's 7 p.m. till midnight. So guess who got the job?
That's when you stepped in to the best shift.
Yeah.
So that's I think there's a lot to learn from that, even though this was very, very early days in your career. You saw something that you wanted and you put yourself out there. Like a lot of people, they are in a career, they want to make a change. And let's say they might want to go into yoga teaching or something. And just getting out there, getting that experience, start connecting with the right people, doing it like on the side of whatever you're doing. And you can just start getting the momentum that way. So I think that's really inspiring because you didn't have any like way into radio other than like slotting yourself right on in. So I reckon that's epic and thank God you did because
I think attitude honestly counts for about 80-90%. And I find that with people who reach out to us looking for work or opportunities or anything, I actually admire anyone who has the courage to do so. And I look at the persistence of them and how much they really want it, and that impresses me a lot. And I think it can really get you a long way in life especially if you show that you want this for the right reasons. It's because you really want it, you're passionate. I mean, it's hard to find people like that. So I think if they come your way, you've definitely got to take them in if you can. And if it's something you want badly, you've got to show that you've got the right attitude for it. If you want something bad enough, I just really think you'll get it. Because that's all you're going to be focused on.
Yeah, and you're putting the building blocks in place to get there. So okay, that's epic. You've stayed in radio for over 30 years. How did you know that it was right for so long?
Oh, God, it was just so fun.
I like that.
I was lucky. I thought, I always pinching myself, like, I'm so lucky I have this job. I think about, we have callers all the time. People are working the night shift or people are, they work really hard jobs, labor intensive jobs or just really monotonous jobs where they're doing the same thing all day, every day. I just feel sorry for them in a way, like not that they want my pity or need my pity, but I just think, oh, I'm glad I don't have that because I don't know how they couldn't get bored. I would go nuts. So I always felt so grateful and lucky to have a job where every day was different and I had a lot of freedom and flexibility in the job and I could just be myself for most of it. And I don't know, it was just such a fun lifestyle as well. It didn't feel like work. Only when I had to get up in the middle of the night to go to work. Oh, that was hard. But it didn't feel like work. It was just so fun. Yeah.
And that's the goal for everyone, isn't it? How can we get to a place that we're doing something that we love as much as you obviously loved radio? But during that time, and I know this would have happened at the end because obviously you've made a shift for a reason, but earlier on in that 30 years, were there moments where you thought, is this the right career path? Is this what I should be doing? Or there were just no doubts throughout that?
Never any doubt. I just knew that's what I wanted to do and I loved it. And this is before, remember, this is the mid-90s that early 90s, 1991 I started on air. And there's no, it's anonymous. Radio's anonymous. No one knows who you are. They just hear your voice and hear your personality. So I didn't get into it to be seen by people. There was no social media. There was no TV. Like it wasn't what I was after. I loved just entertaining people. And before there were pictures, so to speak, like social media and the internet and stuff, you could be more creative because you're painting a picture in people's heads. Like we do lots of stunts and people will go, oh, I wish are you really doing that? Are you really doing that? And you could just really make people wonder if things were real and things. When they always were, but it's just that whole wonder like, wow, I wonder if this is real. It can't be real. Like they're actually naked in the studio or they're actually doing this, So that was always a really fun. And then when the internet came along, we had to really, we were exposed. We had to show that you were naked in the studio. We had to show the naked pictures. Yeah. And I don't know. It just added a different dimension to the whole thing. But yeah.
And so when you did get to the point where you decided it was time to make a career change, what was your thoughts around that? And then can you give us a little bit of context about what you've done now?
Well, I honestly thought I'm going to be on the radio till I die. Okay, for my whole life. I couldn't imagine even retiring at 65. But I guess since I started so young and I didn't do anything else, there's not many people that are doing the same thing for 35 years. I guess I just was burnt out. It's such a demanding job creatively. It's so demanding. It's demanding on your time as you become more famous. Everyone wants a piece of you. You're asked to do so many other things outside of your job of being on the radio. So it's exhausting. And I got to a point where I was just really exhausted and I started to not love it anymore. And it took me, I've been thinking about it for a few years. Like, I think maybe I'm burnt out and I need a change. I wanted a long break, but I couldn't get that with my job because once you're out, you'd someone else
stepping in.
Yeah, it's hard to get back in. So I was worried about leaving and doing something new because I don't know anything else, I thought. And what else would I do? I have no idea. I'm not trained for anything. Like, I left school, went to Polytech to do media studies and started in radio straight away. So I had no chance to go to university and do law with which is what my alternative idea was, or psychology or whatever. I've got nothing. So I'm just this stupid radio host who talks shit for a living. This is what I'm thinking. So it was terrifying, which is why it took me so long. But in the end, I decided, and maturity comes with this, like turning 50 changed a lot in me because I thought, I've still got maybe, all going well, about 30 years left. Like, if I get to my 80s, that's good. That's a good innings, right? So if 30 years. So that is my whole adult life that I've already spent in radio. I've got another of that. Can I do that in radio again? I can't. I need to do something new. And it's not too late to start something new because I've got so long to do it. So.
And how did you change that mindset? Because you had this, which I think is a limiting belief that a lot of people have. I have no other skills. I'm not good at anything else, whether they've been doing it for like 33 years or 3 years. And I think we can unpack that a little bit more because, while you have skills in radio particularly, that is just such a huge skill set, whether that's networking, being able to think on your feet, strategy, a whole lot of stuff like that, right? That you can, business savvy, you have to know all these things to be doing what you were doing. And obviously like an amazing personality. So I think people need to remember to look at their core skills that they've gained from the role they're in, rather than just being like, I've been in radio, I haven't done anything else. You obviously managed to do that because you've made your shift successfully. So how did you switch that mindset from thinking, I can't do anything else, to, hey, I actually can?
I don't think that I didn't have the skills necessarily. Like marketing, I can do marketing, all that stuff because I've been doing it. But because I don't have a diploma in it or something, like who would hire me, So that's where I worried. But I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I felt confident that I would work it out because things just always work out. You always work things out. So I felt confident I'd work it out. I just assumed my backup plan was take a few weeks off and do nothing, and then maybe do a bit of MC work, or, I get asked so often to do keynote speeches and I always turn them down because I'm actually terrified.
That sounds so funny coming from the radio queen herself.
It's ridiculous. I'm used to talking to a microphone, not a big audience. No, it's not stage fright. It's, oh God, I don't know. Like, I also don't know where to start with a keynote speech. Like, what do people want to hear from me? I don't know. Do I have anything valuable to say? I'm not sure how to put that speech together. So basically, I thought, okay, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna work on that. I mean, I've written 2 books. I know how to do it if I sit down and do it. But I just thought, okay, that's what I'm gonna force myself to do. So I thought that's my backup plan. But it didn't happen that way because a week after I resigned, before I even left, PodLab came about. Dom, my ex-husband. He's been wanting to, build a studio to rent to other podcasters because he has his own podcast, and the space came up here, and the studio was already existing. It just needed a lot of work, but it was here, the bones of it. So I thought, okay, let's do it. I've got nothing else to do now. So,
and I think that's what you were saying as well about, like, things do just work out, especially if you've got the right attitude and you've put the time into your career and everything like that. So it's really good for people to know that it does. And if it doesn't, it's always great to have a plan B, as you had.
Yeah, a backup. I think, like, in so many situations, whether it's changing your career or relationship, moving town or house or something like that, it's always terrifying, and you often doubt yourself and think, even if you're in a bad relationship, this guy's no good for me, but will I find anyone better? Like you always doubt yourself.
For sure.
But let's look at every time something big has happened for you, it's always worked out for the best, hasn't it? Like generally always worked out for the best. Even people who get made redundant and it's like it's the worst thing ever. But when you get past the grief of that, most people that I've talked to would say, oh, it was for the best because I ended up doing this, which they never would have thought of doing before. They're not open to it. So I just think when you open yourself up to things, the world listens. You've got to put things out in the universe. So I'm available now for whatever job may come at me. And in the end, I created my own job. But I still believe that even if PodLab hadn't come about, I would have found something to do because I can't just sit there and do nothing.
Those are such words of wisdom, and I'm completely on the same page. It's like that cliche, when one door closes, another door opens. It can feel like you're being hit in the face when the door closes, but once you've got some perspective, like you actually realize sometimes it's hard to make change yourself, and especially if change is forced on you, like it can be for the best. Okay, you mentioned burnout towards the end of your career. What did burnout feel like? So for people who are sitting there in their own career wondering what they're feeling and trying to identify it, how would you describe how burnout felt for you and what made you realize that it was that so that you could make that shift to get yourself out of that situation?
Apart from the pure exhaustion, it was a lack of passion. Like I just didn't care anymore. I wasn't into it. I was kind of being kind of lazy in terms of like, oh, I don't want to interview them. Nah, it's not important. I don't want to go and do that promo. I don't want to, I just wasn't excited anymore. So I figured, I'm not just doing myself a disservice here. I'm actually doing all the people I work with a disservice with my bad attitude. It wasn't that I had this bad attitude, but my attitude of like just not being into it, not being as passionate as I used to be. I just thought it was not good. It was rubbing off on other people. So I thought, I'm definitely over this. I'm tired. I've got nothing more to give. So it was just a feeling of utter exhaustion, emptiness. Like there's nothing in the tank anymore.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I wanted to fill that tank back up, I either had to have a really long break or just leave and do something else.
Yeah.
So that was what it felt like.
And what advice would you give to someone who's feeling like they're in that position, but they don't know whether it's the right thing to take a break or make a leap?
That's the thing. Like you are going to feel like that confusion with yourself.
Yeah.
You are going to be scared and terrified. But I just think you should just do it.
I love
just
that.
do it.
We're all
Like what
about.
do they say? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because no good is going to come if you're just sitting there continuing in this bad cycle of fatigue or a shit relationship or a shit job or whatever. Just no good is going to come of it. Like just get out now and find the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, all the stuff we're talking about applies to so many different aspects of life, not even just career shifts.
Yeah.
And I think another key thing I'm noticing from what you're saying there is it was a real change from how you were, which was super passionate and super energetic, like what you know to be a core part of your personality had changed. So it's quite helpful for people to reflect like when they started something or how they know their personality to be and measure up where they're at now to identify whether they are potentially going through this same sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Absolutely. Remember back how you felt when you first started or even the first few years or whatever. And do you still feel that way? What's changed? If you can identify that, you can either fix it or get out.
Nice. Okay. So when you went to make that final leap, how did you get the confidence to do it and to make the decision to actually resign? Because, you can think about these things for so long, but then you've actually got to execute on it.
There was a breaking point, I have to say. Let's just say there was a meeting.
The ominous
And
meeting.
things were said that made me think, nah, I don't agree with any of this. This is not me. I can't go along with this. So it was like a straw that broke the camel's back in a way.
Yeah.
It needed to happen because I had really literally been saying for actually quite a few months, I'm done, but like
Just standing on the ledge,
didn't-
though, not taking the leap.
yeah. And everyone has to go through that. You're not going to suddenly decide. You do have to go through the pain of, it happening and all the same shit happening before you decide, okay, now I am going to jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's always a breaking point.
Yeah.
But the sooner you can get that breaking point out the way, the better, I think.
And tell us about your actual resignation and actually resignations that you've had before that, because you've moved around in roles within the radio industry. People struggle to resign. It's hard. You feel like you're letting people down personally. How have you gone about those?
You're going to be disappointed, but I've never had to resign.
Oh, you've never resigned?
From this last time. Because actually, that's like when I first started at Energy FM, I resigned from there to go to in Hamilton to the Breeze, which was in 1994.
Yeah.
And I was only there for 3 months before I went to the Edge. So yes, I did resign, and I can't really remember too much about that. I just think I said I'm going to this other job. But at the Edge, I was there for so long, and I said to my boss, I'm tired, like getting up at 4 a.m. every day, it's killing me. I felt burnt out. This is where the burnout started. I feel burnt out. Can I do something new? I want to work in the afternoons. So that's when he said, yeah, we'll move you over to More FM. So that's, so there was no, resigning.
I was going to say, if you weren't resigning, were you getting fired?
No, I was just with the same company all that time.
I see. I didn't realise the radio was all connected that.
They own like heaps of radio stations.
Gotcha.
And then this time I just sent my letter of resignation on the email, and my boss called me and said, I accept your resignation. And that was the end of it.
And I think, from that experience, would you say to people, like, it's not actually as hard as you think to resign, like, once you've done it?
Well, I mean, it's really simple, because all you have to do is put in writing that you want to leave.
Mic drop.
Yeah, that's it. Bye. I mean, it's helpful if, I know one of our producers resigned, and the boss said, oh, you've got to put it in writing. And he wrote something like, it was one line. It was something like, I am resigning effective this date from so-and-so. And we all had a laugh about that, because we're like, where's the small talk? Like, hi, thanks for all these great years. I really enjoyed my time working here. But, it's I've decided to do something new, so I'm leaving. Like, you don't have to do all the small talk.
Yeah.
But if you can, it softens the blow a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you respect and have enjoyed working with the people you've worked with.
Yeah.
It's always good to throw something in.
Yeah. I definitely, when I left, I really felt like I was letting everyone down on the show. Like, it hurt a lot to say to Feeney and my producers, like,
and the listeners.
leaving. And the listeners as well, of course. But, first and foremost, I go to work with these people every day, and we have this chemistry, and that's what makes the show. So in a way, you're blowing the show up. So that was the hardest part. And then the listeners,
how did you get over the feeling?
listeners is another thing, yeah.
The listeners is a big thing. People are still upset about it.
Yeah, I know. But then I think, well, I'm still here, so just find me on social media or something if you really want to hear me wire on every day.
Just come listen to the podcast. How did you get over the feeling of feeling like you were letting down your co-hosts?
I didn't really get over the feeling, I must say. I knew that they'd be fine. Just like with anything we're saying.
They're big kids.
Yeah, they get over, there'll be the grieving, and then they'll move on, and it'll be fine. And that's cool, because, a new girl came in, Sarah, and she's perfectly slotted in perfectly, and they all get on great. And Feeney knows her from working with her previously, so the show is absolutely fine. The listeners seem to like her from what I can see. So I feel like it's good. I've left them in safe hands,
Yeah.
I feel okay about it.
Always feels like monumental decisions that you're letting people down, and yes, it's tough at the time and people are upset, but as you say, people move on, everything moves on, so you've just got to do what's right for you.
Yeah, that's the key thing is I'm quite a people pleaser, and I always worry about everyone else.
So many of us struggle with that.
Yeah. But in the end, I had to be selfish for once, and I feel uncomfortable doing that, but I had to do it. Yeah, and I'm glad I did.
Nice one. Okay. What advice do you have for someone who knows they want to make a change, but they don't know what's next?
None of us know what's next at all in anything. Like, we don't know what tomorrow brings, but, we can control it for the most part. It's about seizing opportunities and looking for opportunities and talking to people and, especially talking to people, because if you're scared to do something, talk to friends, talk to family, get a little bit of confidence from them and courage from them, and it's not going to be the end of the world. You'll survive. Life is about taking risks. If we didn't take risks, we wouldn't move forward in any way. It would be really boring.
We would not have sent a man to the moon.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. Honestly, why are you letting fear hold you back? Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Think about that. What's the worst that can happen? And the likelihood of that happening is low. We worry about so many things that don't ever happen.
Yeah, exactly. I heard someone say, rather than thinking, oh no, what's going to happen, think about all the worst things that can happen, think about what could happen and think about all the good things. It just puts your brain in a different state. So
thinking of it.
I'm always like, oh, I'm about to, for example, do this interview, this could happen. And you always think about all the bad things that are likely to happen. You don't typically, well, I'm sure some people have got themselves to this mindset, but you're not typically thinking, oh, what could happen when it's so successful and we have such a great chat. And I think that's a really good place to get your mindset to when you're trying to make a change like that. You said when you were doing your radio presenting, and especially as you got more famous, you got really busy. And I know that, I don't know all the things that you've done on the side, but I know you've done some stuff, and I know you had Radio Chick website at some point early in your career. So how have you balanced doing multiple things at the same time? Or if you don't think you balance doing them very well, is there any advice that you would give to someone who, for example, they might be starting up a side hustle, or they might be looking for their new jobs. They might have picked up a few more hobbies to try and figure out what they like.
First of all, I do believe that women generally, not to make it sexist, but are good at multitasking.
We'll take it.
We actually can do a lot of things at once. Time management is one thing. I suppose I'm not really that good at it. But I was kind of lucky in my job in that even though I was doing the breakfast show for so long, so getting up at 4 a.m, being at work at 5, and the show goes till 10, and then you have meetings till 11, and then you go home and you prepare for the show for the next day from home. So I was always at home by 11, 12 every day. So I had afternoons to kind of do other things because I'm wide awake now, kind of thing, or might need a nap. But so I had time to do my website. My website started actually it originally started in 1998 or 1999 when the internet first sort of started happening.
Popped off.
Didn't even pop off yet, but there was the internet. And I wanted to show our listeners photos of the things we were doing to prove we were doing them online. And we didn't have a website for the radio station. And I kept saying to my boss, The Edge, we need a website. We need a website. And he's like, oh, no, that costs money. We're not into that yet, blah, blah, blah. So I made a free website for myself called Radio Chick. And it was just like a stupid blog where I'd write a diary every day and put photos of the things we did on the radio and everything. And it was it was a really weird one where it had a long web address with all these numbers at the end of it. It's one of those free sites.
One of those ones you don't want to type in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how, but it just started gaining momentum, right? And it started getting really busy, and I thought of all these ideas I could do, and I did giveaways, and I did photo galleries, and I did just magazine type articles and things. And I talked to a web designer, and I decided to call it radiochick.co.nz. And The Edge still doesn't have a website. So every time we're having to go onto the radio and go, oh, if you want to see the photos, you have to go to radiochick.co.nz. So my website started just growing, and even The Edge finally got a website, I think 2001 or 2002. And by then my website was getting, I don't know, 80,000 members or something. I had a lot.
That's impressive.
I was winning awards. I was on the web ratings each week. My website was higher than most radio station websites. So
everyone's so desperate to see what you guys are doing behind the scenes. Love it.
It was so weird. So anyway, it just became a thing, and I ended up hiring a couple of girls to work with me, and the website was going really well, and it was going so well. I was even selling ads on it. It was going so well that it was taking up more and more time. And I had to be in all these meetings because everyone wanted to be part of the website, sponsors and things. But I had to personally be the one in the meetings because the website was about me. So I became really time poor. And I had to make a call to stop the website in the end. And this was about 2013.
Yeah.
So it went for many years.
Were you tempted at all to keep the website going, or it just wouldn't have made sense given that essentially is following your radio career, so you needed the radio career to make the website make sense?
I could have done it completely separate and made a big thing of the website, I reckon.
Yeah.
But I decided my priority was the radio.
Yeah.
So something had to give. So I decided I didn't need the website. It was probably more of an ego project. So I thought, I've got Facebook. So I said to all my followers on my website, I'm closing down my website, but follow me on Facebook. And a lot of them did because I've got like 115,000 followers there. And so I missed the website because it was so cool at the time, but I don't need it. I didn't need it anymore. So I guess the long answer to that question, how do you fit in things on the side? I had a bit of extra time.
Yeah.
But I would say look for the extra time that you have, and it might be a couple of hours at night. It might be just in the weekends or whatever, to do these little side hustles or things that you want to try on the side. And just any spare time that you have.
And then prioritize. Like if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed with things, prioritize what's important to you.
Yeah.
So that you don't end up in a place where you get burned out by trying to do all too much.
Yeah.
Your resilience is something that I really admire about you. I know a lot of people admire about you. When you are in a role that is in the limelight, you're always going to get that negative backlash. There's always the haters. There's always, with lovers come haters, I guess. So how have you, and just any setbacks, how have you pushed forward and made sure that all the noise doesn't get in your head and keep going forward to stay on your own path? Because I think people can be worried about what other people are going to think or what other people are going to say, and that can steer them off the course that is probably right in their heart.
It's perspective, really. You have to think about, who are these people? Who are the haters, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Is it anyone I know or love? Never. Because the people that know me and love me obviously know the good in me, right? So the haters, they don't know me. They see me as this. They actually don't see me as something real. Just like any big celebrities, if you think of any big celebrities, let's go. Brad Pitt, Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not real to us.
Yeah,
because
you're right.
we've never met them. We don't have a connection with them. It's easy for us to go, oh, Kim Kardashian, she's had too much plastic surgery.
Such a bit.
Yeah. Like, look at her, like, swanning around with all these different guys every 5 minutes, whatever. It's easy for us to say that. If we met her and got to know her, we'd possibly be like, oh my gosh, she's such a great person. I had no idea. Like, all we're seeing is the image, the public image. So it's easy for us to judge or think negative things about people we don't know, because you're only seeing like a tiny little snippet of their life or a little snippet of the story. Everything you're seeing is out of context. So I just don't care what people think or say about me, because they don't have the whole story, and what they think or say about me is never going to affect me. And it's not going to affect the way my life is. It's not going to affect the things I do every day. It's like all these people that are hating on my boyfriend because I date this really hot guy from Algeria, and they're like, oh, he's a scammer, or he's younger than you. You're too old for him, blah, blah, blah.
People are always going to hate on a hot boyfriend.
Exactly.
Jealous.
I'm just jealous. I'm like, okay, hate all you want. It's not going to break me up with him. It's not. So it doesn't matter what they say. They can say whatever they want. It's not going to change the fact that I'm older than him, or that he lives in Algeria, or that we are in a relationship. It shouldn't matter, and everyone should think about that, the perspective of it. Who are these people, and do they matter in your life? No. Would you take advice from them? No. Then why are you listening to their bullshit?
I love that. Those are words to live by. And did you always have that confidence in yourself and been able to block out things like that, or is this something you've had to really teach yourself over the years?
No, I'm kind of a person who doesn't really care anyway, like what people think, unless I know them, like I say, like, because you don't know me. You're uneducated. Your opinion is uneducated. So if you want to know the truth, why don't you come and ask me, and I'll happily tell you. Like, I'm actually a really open person. I'll tell you anything you want to know. But I think, like, when you start on radio, and like in the old days when people would complain, they would send in a fax or a letter. So you wouldn't get too many complaints because
No one can be bothered.
Yeah, they had to go to all this effort.
Yeah.
But texting came along, where you could text in the radio station, you guys suck or whatever.
Too easy.
And we used to have some fun with that. So when someone would text in and they'd say something shitty, often we'd call them back. And then if they answered every single time, I kid you not, they would either, or they mostly always blame someone else. Oh, that was my brother texting in. Oh, my mum got my phone or whatever. Like they blame someone else, and you keep talking to them and you go, oh, hey, I just wonder why you thought we weren't funny today. Like what was it that you thought? Why are we so shit? And they would always be like, oh no, I was just joking. Like, oh no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean. You guys are great. Like once you confront the person,
Terrified.
they take it back because they didn't mean it.
Keyboard warriors, people just get behind a screen and will say anything. They would never say that to people's faces, and yeah, they don't mean it.
No, they don't.
Or if they do, then they wouldn't say it to your face because they're not confident enough in themselves. And I think that's a big part of the problem, people having self-doubts and things and taking it out on other people who are putting themselves out there.
Yeah, it's just jealousy.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most hated traits I find in a person. A jealous person, I can't deal with it. Jealousy, just that evil envy. When you really are so jealous of someone that you feel this anger and hate. I hate that about someone. Like, just calm down.
Yeah, it's the terrible human flaws, the green-eyed monster.
If you can't beat him, join him. Or why don't you do better? But if you think about all the trolls online, most you personally, none of your friends or family would ever do anything like that. A normal person, and I say normal, you know what I mean? A normal person who's happy in their life would never do anything like that. Like go online, someone's page and say something so nasty.
Yeah.
It's always someone who's got a lot of problems going on, or they've failed in their own life or whatever, and they just can't cope and they're just lashing out. So I just feel sorry for those people.
Yeah, get something better to do.
And there's a block button, and I just use it a lot now.
Yeah.
And it's just because I don't want the negativity in my space, because it feeds off other people.
I think that's so important, being able to set yourself boundaries. Sometimes people can get almost like they can pull you down with them into that path where you're reading all the comments and everything like that. And it's so powerful to just be able to say, no, you're out of my space. So what advice would you give to people who are scared to put themselves out there because of what others might think? Obviously not necessarily in the regard of on air and having all these people, but maybe they're thinking, I am a doctor and I want to change to owning a yoga studio, but people might judge me for that, and I'll get lots of flack for it.
Why does it matter what people think? Like I come back to this.
Primo.
Honestly, why? It doesn't matter unless someone has some sort of power to control that you can't open your yoga studio. Like they're the boss of Yoga Studios International or something. It doesn't matter what someone thinks.
Yeah.
Prove them wrong.
Yes, I love that.
Just up the haters. It's your life. You're the one living your life. You're here with you every single day. They're not. So you've got to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I actually had this quote written down that I heard you say. You can't rely on other people to make it good for you. You have to make it good for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And it's the whole thing about why would you worry about what other people think of you? Because they're not actually going to be there for you.
Yeah.
There are people in your life who will be there for you and help you and support you and all that. But for the most part, I work on the idea of what if they're not there for me? I need to be able to do this for myself because I'm the one who's responsible for me. I'm the one who cares the most. No one else cares about me or my life more than I do.
Yeah.
Or the things that I'm into more than I do. So that's my point. Like you can't rely on other people to read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I had a friend who was upset with me because I didn't call her and she had an important thing happen to her and I didn't call her to see how she was. Now, from my point of view, I thought that she was fine with this thing that was happening. I didn't realize it was such a big deal to her. And from her point of view, she was just seething all day. Like, why hasn't she called me?
We've all been in that position.
Yeah. And how that's not my fault that she thinks that. Because here I am, oblivious over here. I didn't realize, of course, if I knew it meant that much, I would have called her that day. But I had no idea she wanted me to call her that day. So she's sitting here angry because I haven't read her mind.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done what she wanted me to do, but she never asked me to do it. So I feel like that's the thing, and you can't expect people to do things for you if they don't know what you want done.
Yeah.
No one is a mind reader. You know, in a lot of relationships, I see this. A lot of, like, the man or the woman, whatever, woman, man, whatever. One of them will be mad at the other person because they didn't do what they wanted them to do, but they never said what they wanted them to do. They just assume that they should know because you've been together for so long. You should know what I want. Or, you had to tell me.
Everyone's going to be resonating with this. We've all been there, eh?
Yeah, so, basically, I think, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, completely. You've got to do it for you.
Yeah,
you've got to back yourself, and you've got to know that when you're doing something, if no one else is going to be happy with the outcome, it doesn't matter. You've just got to know that you're going to be happy with the outcome. And you've got to roll on that basis, because if you're thinking, I want to make a career change, but I don't know what my parents will think or what other people will think, like, you can't ever know, and you can't control what other people think anyway. So there's just no point wasting all your energy on that.
It's always harder when your close friends and family are ones that are not agreeing with what your decision is. So when I say I don't care what other people think, that means people that aren't close to me. When people are really close to you and they have an opinion that doesn't align with yours, that is always hard.
Mm-hmm.
So if your parents don't like your career change or don't like your new partner or whatever, it makes things hard. But at the end of the day, it's still the same in that, first of all, you have to find out what it is they don't like. What is the problem that they have? Why don't they want you to go to this new job? Why don't they like this new partner? And then address those concerns for them. Like, is it just because you think I'm going to get cheated on again, or you don't like where he comes from, or whatever? If that's the case, talk that through. Find out if it really is important to the longevity of or the continuation of your relationship, and then move on with your relationship. Break up if you have to, but I would say your parents will want to have their say, but don't let them make the decision for you. Same as like a job. If they don't like the job you're going to, why not? What's wrong with this job? Let's hear you out, hear what you've got to say, and then decide if that is important to you, what they're saying.
And those are great questions to be asking, rather than just letting someone say, I don't think you should do it. Asking why, like exploring it. It can be an open conversation, and you might take away a lot from it. They probably have some good perspective, and they might have some that is just trying to protect you because they haven't taken a risk themselves or something like that. So you just need to balance that out and not necessarily let it throw you off course, just let it help you guide your course.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at us.
Yes, well.
So a lot of people struggle to leave behind this identity they've built for decades, and you've done that too. How has it felt, like, changing your identity from being the radio girl, the radio queen, to now owning a business? I reckon it's super cool what you've done, and you've built up this amazing business, which we'll talk about at the end. But did that feel like you were losing a part of yourself, and was that a concern for you?
It kind of was, because it's all I've ever known, to be on the radio. So I was worried that I was going to lose a part of myself, or that I wasn't sure who I would be without being the radio person. But it wasn't enough to stop me from doing it. And now that I've left, I don't feel like I'm not the radio. I know I'm not on the radio anymore. And, as time goes on, less people will know me as being on the radio. But I look at it nostalgically now, that I was on the radio for all this time and I did all these great things, and it was such a cool career. So I actually look at it like with pride and happiness. But now it's time for me to do and be something else. And there's room in your life to be more than one thing. So I feel absolutely content with the decision to not be on the radio anymore, and I don't miss it. And that might change in months or years, I don't know, but it's only been a few months, so I don't miss it yet, but because I'm so busy doing PodLab. So yeah, I found it okay to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's still sort of there a little bit.
She always will be there.
People come up to me all the time, JJ, Mike and Dom. I'm like, that was 10 years ago.
I know that's the one I remember, JJ, Mike and Dom. It's like grained on my brain. What is the most surprising or unexpected great thing that's happened for you stepping away from radio and stepping into this new life of yours?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. I've been surprised by how, I'm seeing a different side of myself. So I did lack quite a bit of confidence in radio.
That's going to be so hard for people to imagine.
I know. Fake it till you make it.
Yes, girl.
But I've got this new confidence in running this business, which I've never had any experience in before. I guess maybe when I ran my website, sure, I maybe got some experience there. But I come out of just like talking shit for a living, and I'm here and I'm running this business, and I've got things that you've got to do that I've never thought of before, like indemnity insurance and doing accounts and
all the glamorous stuff.
I mean, yeah, contracts for people, just all the stuff which has never been an interest of mine or anything. And I've managed to just work it all out. So I've been quite impressed by how I've just taken this new challenge and just run with it. And so far it's going really well. And I'm learning so many things along the way, which I'm loving. Like every day is so exciting and interesting, and I'm loving all this. And I'm just being so surprised by how supportive and open people have been to this change that I've made, because I've been so well known for being that radio person. And now all of a sudden I'm this professional businesswoman, supposedly, and I'm being a bit more professional than I normally would be in lots of ways. And people have been, they've actually been open to me evolving.
Yeah.
They've seen this radio chick who's trying to be like this business person, and they've been supportive and open to that and forgiving. So I've been really quite surprised at how people have responded.
And I think people typically are like that when you're starting up something cool and new. There's so much amazing support from great people around you.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked that things are going well for you. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown on what you are doing now and how it's going, how you're feeling about it?
Oh, we have a podcast studio. It's called Pod Lab.
It's actually where we're sitting today.
This is one of them. So we record podcasts, video and audio. And so we have one studio here that has a couple of different options for backdrops, and so you can have a dark studio, light studio, and people come and record their podcasts here, and we will edit them if they need us to, and give them the files, and they can upload them to social media.
You're a one-stop shop really for anyone that wants you to be everything. Otherwise, people can pick and choose what bits they want done.
Yeah, and people come to us for guidance. So they might say, I've got this idea for a podcast, but I'm really nervous, I'm scared, I don't know if it's any good. So Dom and I will sit down with them, hear their ideas, help them shape their ideas, and give them some guidance and confidence to start their podcast and explain the whole process to them. There's that. And then there's another type of customer we have, and it's generally businesses who come to us and they want a podcast for their business because that's the way things are going now, and they want to add it to their media assets, and they have no idea what to do because podcasting is not their core business. So they come to us, we come up with an idea for their podcast, and we can create the whole podcast for them if they want. So we'll come up with the idea, the name, how it's going to look. We'll get their guests. We'll write the questions, do the research. We'll get them a host if they want. And if they want, we can record the whole thing, and here's your podcast, and pop it up on your socials. So there is one company we're going to be doing that for at the moment, this early stages, and another company we're helping them make their current podcast better. So we have this creative space. Dom and I are using our creative brains to create content for people, and that's what we love doing. And then the basic of the company is to record just your podcast here. But we want to be able to help someone with their whole podcast, or any question you have about your podcast, or any help you need. We'll find a way to help you.
And I love that, because so many people want to start a podcast, and this is the situation I was in. It's so daunting, like you just don't know what to do. And it's so nice that people can get help with that. It's so epic for you guys as well that you've come off these like amazing radio careers, and you're able to use that creativity, that love of creating things on air, and being able to help people out doing that. So I can see so many skill transfers of like what you guys have built from your career to doing this, which is really cool, because it's very different still. Like, I think it's great inspiration for people to see what you have built in your other career has transferred so well to doing this, and that you're having so much fun starting up your own business.
Yeah, and I don't even have a podcast myself yet because I haven't got time.
I know. Starting up a business is no mean feat. And neither's a podcast, so that the two of them are.
I must say though, Freya, because you're a fairly new podcaster, and you don't need too much from us. You basically come here and record because you've already got your podcast sorted, what it's called, what it's about, all that
I was
sort of
quite
stuff.
sorted before I found you. I could have come across you guys earlier. Would have been great.
Yeah, but my point is you don't need too much from us. You're just wanting you've already got yourself sorted out, and that's impressive to me. And you've also done a really great job, so naturally and so early on in your podcasting career. Because a lot of people think they can do a podcast, but actually not everyone can. And you'll find that's actually a lot harder than you probably first thought. And there's a lot of work involved.
Yeah, I know. I thought that, like, of all things to start, this is like digital. It's not like I'm trying to sell a product or something.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the easier things to do, but you always forget about all those background things. I mean, you were saying starting this business, like all the contracts and all the insurance and all of that. It's not stuff you think about when you go in, because you go in with the exciting part of the vision, but it's all part of it, which is good for people to understand.
I mean, today our toilet is blocked, and I've had to put a thing on Vilda.
Yeah, I haven't needed to go.
I've got a second one upstairs. And I'm like, is there a plumber nearby that can come with a plunger and help us out? I mean, that's the dirty business of running a business.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was going to ask you, like, what is it really like to start a business, for people that are thinking about making that transition themselves? I think you've given us a pretty good insight, all these other things that are going on, but is there any other words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
We did get a business mentor who's helped us for a few sessions at the beginning, which was really helpful because she made me think about things I'd never thought of before, and like budgeting and stuff. No good at that. So it's good to get professionals on. We have a legal company that we actually, I'll give them a plug because they're called Legal Vision, and it's just, I found them online. They're an online legal company. You pay a subscription, so you pay a couple $100 a week to them, and you get whatever legal contracts or legal advice you need for your business from them. It's no extra cost because it's just the subscription you're paying.
Well, that's really good for people to know because, people starting up their own things, these are all great pieces of advice. And where did you find the business mentor?
Yeah, and the business mentor is Di. She just reached out to us. No, that's not true. Because we heard about her through, she was working with Between Two Bears, and Dom interviewed her on his podcast, and she was just so awesome, and we were both talking about her and saying, we need someone like her to help us, give us some advice. So we got her to help us out. And what else? You just need, and I got a bookkeeper, and luckily for me, because I'm no good at accounts, this girl, Kate Doyle, reached out to me and she said, I'd like to help you with your bookkeeping. And it was on the day that I was asking another friend who her bookkeeper was. I was like, yes. So often it's the people that come to you right at the right moment. The timing is amazing. So you just got to get a few little people like that in your corner to help you, give you some guidance on what to do. So Kate taught me all about all the financial things I need to learn and do. And Di Foster is telling me all about giving me some business advice. And she does a bit of coaching, so she checks in on you and sees how things are going. And then the Legal Vision has been really, really useful because it probably saved me shitloads of money.
Yeah.
Because especially at the beginning of a business when you need most of your contracts and stuff like that drawn up.
The costs rack up so quickly.
Yeah. And then, there's all sorts of other things you got to think about. Pleasing your landlord. He's a great guy, by the way. Love you, Alan.
Nice work getting on here, Alan. That is really helpful advice. Thank you so much. And let's finish up with a few quick fire questions.
Okay. Oh my God. The pressure.
Pressure's on. So what's a belief that you used to have that you've completely changed your mind about?
Clairvoyance.
Oh, do tell.
Well, I used to be so sucked in to clairvoyants and psychics and stuff, right? I used to go to them. We used to have them on the radio, and my co-hosts would always be dissing them, going, oh, this is BS. And I'd be like, no, it's absolutely true. And I'd show examples of how they've been right in the past. And I just don't believe in that anymore.
Don't base your life on advice from a clairvoyant.
I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure if they're for real or not.
Yeah, each to their own.
Yeah. like a religion. You know, I can't say for sure God exists. But the clairvoyant thing and psychics,
Not for you.
they just can't convince me anymore.
Well, they did a good job to have you on the hook at the start.
I know, and I used to bet for them. And then also another thing is I used to think that you could really trust people that befriended you and, you know, that you felt really good around and that you could trust anyone. And then I've watched every single episode of The Traitors, and there's no way anymore that I trust everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Seen that show?
No.
It's so good.
Okay, good.
So The Traitors, it's
down.
just really excellent. Anyway,
Okay, next question. Book or podcast recommendation?
okay.
Something that's really inspired you.
I think you can probably tell by the chat that we've had, Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson would have to be one of the best books.
And I'm
that
guessing it's not about cheese.
No. Have you not heard of it?
I haven't, no.
It's such a short book too. It's like 87 pages or something. It's really easy to read. It's basically about a couple of mice. You know, one of them goes, you know, they go to get their cheese every day and one day it's been moved. Okay. And then they have they starve to death. It's about embracing change.
Oh, great.
Adapting to change. It's like if you don't change, if you don't go follow the cheese, your life is going to be stagnant and boring and you're not going to move forward. So it is, if you read it, it will give you so much confidence around accepting change, which can be so hard for people. We don't like change.
No.
We don't like it when there's a new voice on the radio. We don't like it when there's roadworks and we have to go a different way to work. We don't like it when our friend moves out of town. Like, you know, I don't like it when there's a new boss or when I have to change my jobs. It's so terrifying. But reading this book will give you so much confidence about it and make you just feel comfortable with accepting change.
That is such a good recommendation. Thank you. I can't wait to read it.
Please read it. Who Moved My Cheese? It's an old book. It's been out for years and years and years, but it's iconic. Dr. Spencer Johnson, I think it is,
Great. We'll note that down in the show notes.
And I'm not a big reader, by the way.
87 pages is manageable.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, JJ, any parting words you have that you want to give anyone if I haven't asked you something in particular?
God, that's tough. Parting words.
You don't need to. Just making sure that we've pulled all the advice we can out of you.
I think what you do is good here. It's great to hear people's stories. Everyone has a different story, but then sometimes there's the same underlying message that everyone has, something in common with successful people who manage the good shift easily. I don't know what that might be because I've only got my story to share with you today, but I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I have been seeing a lot of common threads and people listening to these interviews will be starting to pick up on those. But the number one thing that everyone definitely has in common is attitude, a great attitude towards accepting change and pushing themselves forward. Yeah. And it's cool.
Brilliant. You just got the last word because that was awesome. I can't top that.
And attitude is something as well that people, you don't have to be born with it. You don't have to have it right now. You can change your attitude. You can work on it. And there's so many ways to do that. I mean, there's epic podcasts about it, all of that sort of stuff. So you're not stuck with what you've got that can be changed. So I think that's important for people to remember. Like, people aren't necessarily born out of the womb with the confidence or the growth mindset or the curiosity that they have. It can all be developed. Okay, so JJ, we know where to find you mainly. You can go on Facebook and find you. Are you on Instagram?
Oh, Instagram, TikTok. I don't use TikTok much. I'm a boomer.
You're everywhere.
Podlab.nz. I mean, you know, I'm out there.
And Podlab has an Instagram page as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very niche target audience though. So not everyone watching or listening to this will be needing to come and make a podcast here.
You never know who does.
But you might know someone who does. And maybe you have no idea, so we can help you with that.
And I have to say, since I came into Podlab the first time, I have felt so welcomed here. It can be very nerve-wracking to get on air and, you know, create something that you're putting out into the world. And the team here has just been so epic. I feel like you're my best friends now. And it's so much fun. So I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to come and chat to me and the listeners, and you had so much valuable advice in there. It's almost like you fully prepped for it.
No, but like I said, I've just been talking shit for a living, so I don't know if any of it really makes much sense.
This is good shit and good shift. So it's all good stuff.
I like it. Awesome.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap.